the offensive rebound can always be big.
Size advantage here by Bacon. On Hill, pulls up for the win.
What a win. Smooth.
Florida gonna go. 2 seconds to go. Chioza contested. Looks good. And is off the mark. The Seminoles storm into Gainesville and get one. Bacon with the big bucket.
A star, my friends, has been born tonight. A star. Remember the name. Wayne Bacon.
All right, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Nole Hoops Authority podcast. We're coming to you for the second time this week following a Florida State win over Georgia Tech and preparing for a game tomorrow against UCF, an in-state rival. So we'll revisit that game a little bit that we played on Tuesday, talk a bit about UCF, as well as just a bit about what this Florida State team really is and can be. But first, just want to say we've heard encouraging news about Keontae Johnson coming out of Gainesville, that he is responsive, that they are able to FaceTime with him, and really fantastic news. UF has postponed all their non-conference games, which is completely understandable. I think after the Florida State game and that game being played and how serious it ended up being, I think they're really being cautious to make sure that he can get out of the hospital and be safe before they play again. But that was the best news of the week, is that he's doing fine. We hope that the next news we hear is that he has been released from the hospital and is going to be all back to normal. But that's go ahead.
Some positive news for Keontae and his family, and hopefully we continue to see more positive news come from this, and we wish him the best, and he's in our thoughts, absolutely, for sure.
Absolutely. So let's start talking about the Noles, and I think that if there's one thing to talk about from Tuesday, it's pretty clear. It's Scottie Barnes. I think that the level that we are seeing from this guy is so far beyond what we've ever seen, at least in your and my lifetime. I won't go all the way back to Dave Cowens and some of those really old school legends, but we have never seen a guy come in as a freshman and be this type of player. So why don't you just start with talking about Scottie and what you saw on Tuesday?
Yeah, it's been impressive. Obviously, that's to put it. I think I'm even not giving him his due here by putting it as impressive. Obviously, we've seen some people in the Twitter sphere say he's, not as athletic as they like to see and can't jump. But again, I think you've pointed out that maybe people really need to watch his game, because he's put on some performances that we haven't seen from a freshman, at least like you said, in our lifetime. He's bigger than everyone else. He's stronger than everyone else. He's faster than everyone else. And he kind of has a light switch, which I don't know if we've really seen in a player since maybe XRM. And that's not to say XRM was consistent with it. He had a when I want to attitude rather than all the time attitude. Scottie has taken over multiple games at this point. I think he won us the Indiana game, and I think he won us this game. We were almost up 20 at one point against Georgia Tech. They came back. They were a point behind. They had all of the momentum, and we put Scottie back on the floor, and he took over. He flat out took over. He has a second gear that we haven't seen anyone else on this team show off yet. Obviously, there's a lot of season still to be played, and hopefully will be played. But he's put on some performances that are well beyond his age. You and I were texting during the game, and I think we both agreed this is an NBA player playing at the college level right now. I think he would be a very competitive NBA point guard as is. And he's going to start putting on a show. And we've seen it, and I think we're going to continue to see him grow. The things that we haven't seen yet, and this is nitpicking his game, or maybe a mid-range jumper and extending to the three-point land. And he hasn't need to, because he has guys, and I'll get into a guy in a little bit, that's taken a majority of those three-point shots and making them. But I'm more than impressed. We've had some very talented players come through Tallahassee as freshmen over the last, let's call it, 5-10 years, whether it's Dwayne Bacon, Jonathan Isaac, Malik Beasley was a one and done. We've seen the talent, but no one has been on par with what Scottie has done for us so far.
No, I think if we want to see an apt comparison of what we've got in Scottie, let's think about the fact that Patrick Williams came in last year. First of all, didn't look comfortable till we got into ACC play. And even then, it wasn't even until about halfway through that he looked even 3/4 way comfortable. I don't think he ever got 100% comfortable. We saw that kid go 4th overall. And now in preseason NBA games, everyone is just shocked. Like, wow, this guy's really good. Well, yes, maybe if you watch the games, you would understand that. And I think we are seeing the same syndrome happen to Scottie Barnes. CBS Sports puts out an article, the top 10 freshmen in the country. Scottie Barnes is in it. People who evaluate the draft say, I don't know if he can play center. Well, that's because he's not a center. He's a point guard. The only 2 media members that I'll give credit to are maybe John Rothstein and Jake Weingarten, who actually follow this stuff and know the quality of the guys that you're seeing. But this is a different level. And I think the biggest thing that we've seen so far is that killer instinct and that mentality of, I'm the one who's going to win a game. If the team needs a moment, I'm the one that's driving it there. You saw it happen with Georgia Tech. It was almost like he didn't even realize he was doing it. And he said it in the post game. He said, "Oh, they went on a 15-0 run." And then he said, like, "Oh, I don't try to get buckets. It just flows. And when I get them, I get them." And I think what he's going to realize as the season goes on is whenever he wants buckets, he's going to get buckets because no one can stop it. And I texted you this during the game, but I've wavered on it and thought about it. I think I stick by it. Short of Luka Garza, I don't think there's a player in the country that I'd rather have on Florida State's team for who Florida State is than Scottie Barnes. I think it is out of this world, the potential we're going to see from this guy. If we could see Devin Vassell and Patrick Williams and Jonathan Isaac and even to a Fee Cavangeli develop the way they did within a year period, what is this guy going to do? Because he is a different atmosphere, a different level of anything we've ever seen at this university. He is the instinct of Trent Forrest with the talent of a Ben Simmons type player. And so I think that people who don't follow the modern game are saying he needs to be able to shoot from 3 to be a point guard. He needs to be able to hit a mid-range to be a point guard in the NBA. And that's just flat out not true. This guy, if he continues to play the way he does, will be a point guard and I think has the potential to be a number 1 pick in the NBA draft. Obviously, you've got some great guys in the G League and you've got Cade Cunningham. But within the college ranks, there's no one other than a senior Luka Garza who's 29 years old or whatever the hell he is, that I take over Scottie Barnes. Is that ridiculous?
No, I don't think it necessarily is. I do think there's a lot of season that needs to play out still, and I think there will be other names that we see rise through the rankings here, but I think it's justified. How many guys can you pull on one hand that can switch the 1 through 5 defensively and then also kind of play the 1 through 5 offensively too if he wants to? So the killer instinct, the ability to take over a game, we didn't see that in Williams' game at all at Florida State. Really, he was a bucket when we needed him to be at times, but Scottie is a bucket all of the time. I don't think there's anyone that can stop him.
Pat was never in the big moment. He would get us a big bucket. He got us a big dunk against Louisville. I'll say there was 1 or 2 games where Isaac did take over, but it was not consistent. We've played 4 games, and short of the one where there was never a moment where it was in doubt, Scottie Barnes has taken over every single game. And that's the first 4 with no practice leading up to this season. That's what I'm saying is the instinct level of this guy is so far beyond, because he hasn't even had the chance to have Stan work with him fully on free throws, to have Ham work with him on his mentality, to have CY work with him on defense and offense. This is the stuff he's going to continue to get. So I just can't see it regressing. I'm sure he'll have slumps. He'll have periods. It's not like we're going to see this guy take over every single game throughout the year. That's just not going to happen. We've never seen a college player do that other than maybe Anthony Davis and a couple others in the modern era. I don't expect that to happen, but he is going to be a different animal from anything we've ever seen. I truly do believe that. And I think that he is beyond everyone we're facing athletically, because even speed wise, I'm not gonna say he's as fast as Sadar Cahoon or someone like that, but when he had that breakaway dunk against UF, where one of the bodies that he took, he just saw when he got to midcourt that he had the path, and he just kicked it into another gear that nobody else out there had. And we haven't even seen him do that consistently yet.
Yeah, and we haven't even been able to really see him on like a true fast break. Like his fast breaks thus far, where he's giving us these highlight plays, whether it's the behind the back dunk or behind the back and going up and up and under there, all of those are contested. We haven't seen him just like hit the floor and run the way that Patrick Williams did last year against Louisville. Like he had a clear path and he just went and hammed it. Like we have not seen him just like sprint. And I'm looking forward to it. I mean, he brings the house down with every dunk he has, and the attitude he shows after is
amazing.
It's amazing, and it's contagious. The team builds off of it. Each time he's had one of these plays, everyone's going nuts. Yeah. The whole team, and that's part of us growing as a unit. That I think I don't see that regressing, right? Yeah, It's only going to keep moving forward, and the fire that he brings on the floor. It's something that, only a few people that we've seen have had that on the floor. Like you said, the IQ is through the roof. He has that Trent Forrest IQ with significantly more ability than Trent Forrest had.
It's just nuts. Who that we've ever seen, not even at Florida State, but that you've watched in college basketball. We've obviously seen these guys in the NBA, but would have the stones to say, all right, I'm 28 feet from the basket and there's 5 seconds on the shot clock. I know exactly what I'm doing, and it's that I'm going to slam it over their center. Who does that, and who actually makes it happen?
No,
and like that.
Few and far between. Like name wise, like you pointed out Anthony Davis previously. Like Scottie took 3 steps and was at the basket from 27 feet out.
There's not one step from inside the 3-point line.
Yeah, it's impressive.
He was there. And
I don't know anyone else, truthfully.
In college ball,
you threw out some comparisons that I would agree with, and it's funny that like these are negative comparisons because these guys can't shoot. He's been compared to a baby Giannis. Oh, that sounds like a problem. Guy just signed a supermax contract for $225 million. Oh, Ben Simmons. Oh, the Ben Simmons that's centered around James Harden trades right now. Oh, like that's a problem that he can't shoot. You're right. Modern point guards don't necessarily need to shoot. What he's going to do moving forward for this Florida State team is open up the rest of the offense, because now teams know, hey, this kid can take us over at any point when he flips that switch on or when he needs to. So everyone else is going to be open. They're going to try to clog those lanes. And whether it's MJ, who has a quiet 14 points every game, it doesn't seem that way, but all of a sudden he has 6 free throws and hits 2 threes from the corner. Polite is shooting 50% from 3. Gray is shooting really well inside the arc. And Balsa is dunking everything that's given to him. So this is just going to continue to open up the offense for us as we move forward. And I mean, sky's the limit for this kid. It's honestly, we're spoiled right now to have him in Tallahassee. Yeah. And I'm fortunate to say, like, I'm a Florida State fan watching this kid grow.
Yeah. I think we'll all agree that he probably does not belong in Tallahassee and belongs in the NBA right now. But let's move on. You started to talk about it. Why don't we do one takeaway each from that game? I'll start us off, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. You mentioned MJ, and I certainly think that is a takeaway, that it could be so quiet, and then when I text you, we need him to finish, and he finishes. But what the major takeaway for me is that if there's one concern for this team as a whole, it is the depth, because we truly missed not having Raekwon Evans in that game. And I think we probably missed not having Tanner Nagam more than people are going to recognize, because I think Balsa in that first half knew that all he had behind him was Quincy Ballard, and was playing a little bit soft because of it. He looked a little weak. He was playing his old tissue paper big man stuff from last year. And then it was almost like at halftime, CY or someone pulled him aside and gave him a smack. I was like, okay, you're good. Now go all out. You can actually
start playing for us. Yeah.
And I think that is from the confidence to know, all right, well, against UF, when I got a couple fouls, Tanner came in. He played really well for all intents and purposes. But then at point guard, Polite's been incredible. He actually did a really good job taking the ball up court. I thought he didn't make any errors. There was nothing wrong there. But it's not the same offense without Raekwon being that backup point. And we need him really bad to be the guy who can come in and give time for Scottie to get rest, because we can't be giving Scottie 30 plus minutes again.
Yeah, and Evans did a great job last year working behind Forrest, and he wasn't necessarily in the best game shape, coming off an injury in the preseason and kind of hopping on the bandwagon midway through. The mystery of the Georgia Tech game was, where was Tall T and where was Evans? We haven't heard anything since. We've heard that they're likely to be available for the UCF game. Okay. Not going to complain about that.
And we will never, if we know Leonard Hamilton, we will never.
We'll never find out.
We still don't know why.
Find out.
We still don't know why Terrence Mann was suspended 2 years ago, or why Devin was suspended last year. We know now that it was because players came into town and they went out with them when they weren't supposed to. But who knows? In this era, I feel like it's ratcheted up with COVID and everything. These guys could have just gone out and gotten a burger, and because they broke quarantine, and suspended them for the game. We have no idea. Or it could have been something horrible. Like, we'll never know.
We won't know. We won't know. And if we do, it'll be after the season or years after this.
Exactly.
Nor am I going to be one to complain here. If they're back on the team for this weekend, I don't think it was anything that would be a dismissible offense or anything along those lines. But yeah, we do need Evans in there. We do need the body. I mean, last year we had Dom Alinacek underneath, and he could throw his body around, and he had Balsa after. The one thing I don't know if we've really seen yet this year is a ton of Malik at the 5, where Malik was that backup 5 last year, and sometimes he would start, right? He would get a lot of minutes there. You would have Dom in for the tip, he'd be in for 2 minutes, and then Malik would play the rest of the game. So it's a little interesting to see that we've truly moved him to the 4 for a majority of his minutes. But I'm also a little surprised, knowing the way that Ham plays and the rotations he used, that Ballard didn't get more minutes in that game, because the worst he does is, plays like a hack-a-shack role and fouls the shit out of everybody. And we could have seen that. He got a couple minutes, but if you're going to give Balsa some rest and say, hey, Balsa, don't play that hard, well, throw Ballard in and say, play hard as shit and see what happens. I don't really know.
I think the issue with Ballard is that he kills the offensive flow, because he doesn't know what he's doing. Whereas at least Tanner also kills it to a certain extent. He doesn't understand it as well, but he has a higher basketball IQ, because even playing in Canadian basketball, college basketball, he has more experience than does a Ballard, who's played very low level high school basketball. And so I think that's the issue. Is he's got the athleticism. He's the fastest big man we've got. He's got the athleticism to do anything. He can block the hell out of guys, and on defense, he's generally okay. But I think it just destroys the offensive flow too much. And that's why we need that guy. But I thought you brought up an interesting point about Osborne. We haven't seen him at the 5 as much, and we've also kind of seen him disappear. And I think I actually think that's super encouraging, that a guy who we were all concerned, like, oh, what's going to happen when we lose Pat and when we lose Devin, and one of the guys who was arguably top 4 most important people on the team last year, beyond the big 3, he's just kind of, or at least top 5, he's just kind of not done anything except be steady. And so what happens when he starts working himself back in, when he gets comfortable back in this new role? I think it's better for us to have him at the 3 or the 4 than to have him at the 5, because he can make the defense really impenetrable when the big men are on.
I agree. You could go super big with him and Balsa at the 5. And the one thing that coming out of camp that Ham and everyone was talking about with Malik was his shooting, that he is an improved shooter, and they want to extend him out to the 3-point line. And maybe we're just, working him in and getting comfortable. I mean, we're seeing a lot of Wyatt Wilkes. Thank you, Wyatt Wilkes, for listening to the pod and having a revenge game against the Nole Hoop Authority.
He said Sadar ain't taking my minutes.
Yeah, he's not taking your minutes. That's fine. Because honestly, Sadar has no idea what he's doing right now. And I'm hoping he's listening to this and has a bounce back game here, just like Wilkes did last week. But I'm a little confused on Sadar. I think he's like mystery number 2 of the season. Mystery number 1 being, why did Tall T miss a game? But we won't know. I think we do know why Sadar is not necessarily playing. It seems like he's moving in fast motion when everyone else is moving in slow motion, and he's literally just going too fast. Yeah. And I know I've texted you this, between every dead ball, timeout, or stoppage in play, when he's on the court, everyone huddles, and you could see him voicing "my bad," and he's saying "my bad" to his teammates because he doesn't necessarily know what's going, or at least from outside perspective, doesn't necessarily know what's going on right now. He's been the guy up until this point. He was the guy in JUCO. He was the walking bucket. Like, oh my God, we need to score. Yeah. Where's Sadar? And that's perfectly fine. We're going to need him to eventually hit that bucket for us. And he will hit that bucket for us. He can score in bunches. We've seen it. It's just he needs to relax his game a little bit, get accustomed to what Florida State basketball is, and I think he's going to be perfectly fine. But, I think the guy that deserves a ton of credit that we haven't given a ton to this point is Anthony Polite. He's averaging 10 points a game, 30 minutes a game. Ham called him the best defender on the team after that Georgia Tech game, and I think we're only going to see him progress. He's averaging 4.3 rebounds, 30 minutes a game, shooting 50% from three. He's taken that next jump, and I think he's given the old scouts a little 3-and-D specialist audition right now, and I think if he continues to progress, I don't know if he's going to be in Tallahassee next year, shooting 50% from three and defending the way he does. I don't know about that.
He's also 23 years old, which people forget that he's a super old redshirt junior. Mm-hmm. So I think he probably will be. I don't ever see Polite as being a drafted guy. I think he is an NBA guy as a rotation, but I think it's more along the Trent lines where we'll see him get picked up on a two-way and then maybe make his way into the league. Mm-hmm. But who knows? He could be a second rounder. If Ryan Reed could get drafted in the second round and Solomon Alabi could get drafted in the second round, anybody can. So we'll see. But yeah, he's been incredibly steady and consistent, and he is exactly what this team needs. It's almost like you've got these two guys constantly in the corners of the court in MJ and Polite that, like you said earlier, when Scottie starts really commanding, it's just going to be, the old Billy Donovan at Providence, where dive in, go in there and just kick. We haven't even seen that element. It's exciting. And I think that's a good way to transition. I was listening to Jeff Cameron's show earlier this week, and Jeff was pretty emphatic, saying this is a Final Four team now. He's saying, obviously anything could happen. It's not to say this team will absolutely be in the Final Four. There's no team that will absolutely be in the Final Four, although I think Gonzaga is about as close as you humanly can get to that. But he's saying this is one of the teams in the country that has the best chance to be in the Final Four. And there's not a lot of teams in the country that can beat them on a consistent basis. I'll ask you first, and then I'll give my thoughts. Do you think this is a Final Four team?
Today, no. Today, no, I don't. And I think part of that is because we haven't seen any contribution from a secondary point guard, and we're not going to have Scottie play a full game. That's not Ham's style. There is going to be a second and third unit that always comes in. I'm not necessarily as scared as I was on the scoring front as I was in the beginning of the year. Wilkes has shown the ability to get hot again. That's great. Love to see that. Polite shooting well. MJ gets his buckets at the end of the game. He's our Mariano Rivera. I know I said that to you earlier in the week. Gray is scoring. Balls is scoring. Everyone is scoring. But having control in an offense when shit kind of hits the fan is something, one, we haven't necessarily been faced with it with the second unit right now, but I think someone needs to be able to run that second unit, and we haven't seen it. With that said, outside of Gonzaga, like you said, there's a lot of parity in college basketball this year thus far. I think anybody can kind of beat anyone. Like you said, consistently beating Florida State is going to be an issue because of our size, because of how good our defense is. At least I'll say this. Coming out of the ACC, I like our chances being the top ACC team. I think this is at minimum a Sweet 16 team right now that could progress to a Final Four team. But if you ask me today, like you just did, is this a Final Four team? Not yet.
Okay, I'm going to go the exact opposite way. I think today there is maybe 3 teams that if you played 10 games against Florida State would beat them more than 50% of that time. I think Gonzaga definitely would. And I don't know if that's going to change at any point. Baylor, I think, probably would. And I think a team like a Villanova probably would have a chance.
You don't think Illinois could beat us?
I do not. I do not think that Illinois could beat us consistently more often than not. It might be 5-5, but I think that's a very even matchup. That's today.
Yeah.
We just talked about we haven't seen Scottie progress fully to where he's going to be. We haven't seen our second best scorer on the team in Sadar Calhoun, talent-wise. Like you just said, kid looks like he's playing at Rucker Park, not in the TLC Double C. He's just playing pickup and one ball. When he comes down and understands what to do, what does that do for the offense? And then we just talked about Malik Osborne fitting into a role better. This team is far beyond where last year's team was at this point in the season, like far beyond. And by the end of the season, there was no doubt that you were saying, okay, Florida State's a Final Four team. Like there's no doubt they may not make it there, but they're a Final Four quality team. I think there's very little doubt that this team's going to continue to progress and that this team is going to continue to get better. And so I say right now, put us up against anybody except Gonzaga. I don't want to play them ever. But I think we can beat anybody.
Let me ask you this. Outside of a Florida team that is very talented but lost their best player, do you think we've seen a team that's a Sweet 16 team?
I think Indiana could be a Sweet 16 team because they have such talent in those freshmen. And if they bring those guys along, I don't think they were a Sweet 16 team when we played them. I think Florida is so talented that even without Keontae Johnson, if we're being honest, it's not very likely that we see him again this year, although that would make me happier than anything else on earth. But even without him, I think they could be a Sweet 16 team. But form-wise, what we saw in those two games, no. And we may not see a Sweet 16 team on our schedule. That's possible. But Duke looks a lot better. UNC's got bigs. They've got talent. UVA, I think, is the most surefire thing we've had on our schedule to a Sweet 16 team. But if you want to ask me the one team that we've seen so far that is absolutely without a doubt a Sweet 16 team, it's the team that plays in Tallahassee. It's Florida State.
Yeah.
That's a Sweet 16 team. And I don't think there's anybody that's going to disagree that this is a second weekend team.
No, I think I'll have more confidence in calling us a Final Four team as we get past some of the even call it like the upper middle tier of the ACC, the Virginia Techs, Clemson. I think those are good teams that are playing well. I want to see how we do against UNC. I want to see how we do against Duke before I can go ahead and declare us. Like you said, at the end of last year, it was easy to say, oh, my God, Florida State is more likely than not. This could be a final team, let alone a Final Four team. So are we building towards that? Yeah. I mean, I'd like to be more conservative than I'm being. But, yeah, I do think this is a team that can easily get to the final the Elite Eight, Final Four. But every reason that you listed is a justifiable reason of why we could get there. We haven't seen this team play at its best level, and we're still blowing teams out.
Absolutely. All right. Speaking of blowing teams out, let's talk about UCF. I'm sure that without a doubt, the fact that I just said that we are a Final Four team now means that we're going to go out and put a giant stinker on the middle of the court and get beat by UCF. But that's obviously me joking. In all honesty, this is very much an overmatched team. We'll do a quick preview on it. One thing I will say is in our preseason, I said that UCF was arguably the worst team on our entire schedule. And I don't think that's true after seeing them play in a few games. Obviously, they went out and beat Auburn, which is going to look better than it really is because Auburn is trash this year. And Bruce Pearl has 100% sent it down the river. He's ready to play next year when he's got J.D. Davidson and his other 5 stars. And then we saw UCF go out and get really crushed by Michigan. So we've seen a bit of a mixed bag. They're a team that doesn't have a lot of talent when we talk about like NBA type players or anything along those lines, or even Georgia Tech type talent outside of CJ Walker, who, if people don't know, was, a top 10 player coming out of high school, went to Oregon, and then is from the Orlando area, transferred back because of everything going through with COVID. But we really haven't seen him contribute all that much to this UCF squad yet. They've got some guards who have length. I believe they're Their guards go 6'5" and 6'4", so they're not tiny like a Georgia Tech team, but their bigs are non-existent. CJ Walker at 6'8" is their only guy who gets significant minutes, who's really above that 6'7" level, and he's definitely not a 4 or 5. He's a 3, and so. What's your thoughts on how this game plays out matchup-wise for Florida State?
I mean, this is a matchup that our bigs should eat, like you said. Malik, Balsa, Gray, like these guys are, in my eyes, are going to have a big day. And this might be a game where we could actually see Tanner get some good minutes just because of his pure size and ability underneath the basket from a scoring standpoint. So I think this is an overmatched team for Florida State to be playing against. I don't think this is going to be super close, especially if we start to see the offense really start humming as we both predict them to. I think maybe this is a Malik Osborne breakout game. Get him some good minutes, be able to throw him down low, and then extend it to the outside to the 3-point range too. I don't think this is a very close game, to be honest. I think we're going to take this pretty easily, pretty much the entire way.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. They've got, Brandon Mahan is their guy who he scores almost 17 a game and seems to be a pretty efficient player on defense. And but I think if there's anything that needs to indicate anything to you, their leading rebounder is one of their guards, Dre Filler, with 5 rebounds a game. And so coming from Florida State, that sounds really hypocritical because we've constantly had rebounding leaders that were guards and everybody gets 5 rebounds a game, but that's not really who UCF is. It's just that they're a relatively weak team when it comes to that front court. And so I think this is an incredibly overmatched team. I'm not sure that they have anyone who is an Alvarado or a DeVoe who can light it up. We saw that Georgia Tech team has it within them within 2 minutes to go on a 15.
Yeah, they were there.
They've got the potential to get there and eventually be a tournament quality team. I think we saw that. And I feel better about my preseason prediction about them after watching that game. Obviously still completely overmatched. I don't think UCF has it. I think they're a lower quality team. They're better than a UNF. I don't know that they're much better than Gardner-Webb. Gardner-Webb kept it very close with a Western Kentucky team that's very good. I just think that this is a game we're seeing a 12.5-point spread, and I'll be the first to throw my prediction out there. I think we blow that out of the water. And so I'm going to go with 88-64. I think we really dominate UCF and we see a really complete game start to finish. And what I would love to see is to not let a team go on a run against us, because even against UNF, we let them go on that run.
Yeah.
I would like to see us just go start to finish smooth to where we can really get guys like Jack in for meaningful minutes and see, does this guy really have it? He played 2 minutes in the other game.
Hit a bucket.
Can we do that? Can we get the classless Caucasians some minutes? That's what I want to see. This is going to be one of our last opportunities. Maybe let's get these guys in there. Let's really blow this team out of the water.
Yeah, you want to see the Vipers get some minutes there, and I think we will. I have us, covering as well, 82-65. I think our predictions are pretty close here. Maybe they get a couple extra buckets, or if it turns into, a couple fouls at the end or something like that, and we go a big from free throws. But I don't think this is going to be close. I think it's a tough year for UCF to have like their best players be transfers and not really have a full off season or practice or any tune-up games to get into. Tough on them, but the more the merrier for Florida State. And I think, get everybody some minutes here, go up big. And like you said, go up big and don't let a team back in. If you're going to go up 10 at half, I want to see it up 20 at the end of the game, because we've been giving up these runs, and against the better teams in the ACC, those runs are going to end up being L's, and that's what you don't want to see. But to this point, I think we've obviously both Florida State has beat both of our predictions. We both said they would have a loss to this point, and they haven't. I don't see the loss coming this week. I don't see the loss coming against Gardner-Webb. So take it a game at a time, but we're almost at ACC play with Clemson right around the corner, and go get your W here and move on to the next one.
Yeah, I'll just say it. If we lose this game, I'm blaming it entirely on Mackenzie Milton. It's a
Yes.
it's a curse.
It was a mole.
And he'll have to go back to UCF if we lose this game because basketball.
I think that's
is
the
all
last
that
thing that you
matters.
want. That is the last thing that any Florida State fan wants. Another year without a quarterback recruit coming in. So,
okay. I will say this. Just keep the football team as far away from the basketball team.
Yeah, not even allowed in the stadium.
I want to make sure that we don't mix any of the juju that goes on from that team or the prevalent COVID cases. So let's just keep our basketball team very isolated.
Well, as we found out today, the football season is over for Florida State. So I think those players are probably quickly in the caravan, everybody heading back home.
Well, let's hope that they're all safe over the holidays. We've got this game, one against Gardner-Webb, and then a bit of a break before a really big week where we're going up to Clemson and then back at home against Duke. And so that's some really exciting stuff. I'd love to see us be able to stretch out the roster, really see what we've got so that Ham can go into ACC play feeling really confident. But obviously I'm confident. I think we can beat anybody besides Gonzaga right this second. I think it's going to be really exciting to see how this progresses and where we slip up and where we don't. So let's look forward to a very weird tip time tomorrow at 9 p.m. at home against UCF. But we'll be watching. We appreciate you listening. And as always, go Noles.
Go Noles.